Coming up on this edition of Cogeco News, what happens after July 6th when funding for the shelter runs out? Catching up with Corey Marks, and what will the OHL season look like? Welcome inside the Your TV studio for this Tuesday edition of Cogeco News. Truly local, my name is Clark Heupel. Time isn't on the side of the Nipissing Mental Health Housing and Support Services, as the shelter on Wallace Road, which is overseen by DSAB, will run out of funding in the first week of July. There remains hope that last-minute funding will come from the province to assist the local social services branch of the city. For the clients and staff of the homeless shelter at Pete Pelangio Arena, time is running out.
So as it currently stands, our last night here will be July 6th. So we're currently planning, discharge planning for all the folks that are staying here in collaboration with many of the agencies in town, most of them out of the Nipissing District Homelessness Housing Partnership and the Community Advisory Board. So we're meeting constantly now to try to come up with a discharge plan for all these folks in terms of how we can support them when they do leave here and how that's going to look. As well, the DSAB is continuing to look for additional funding should it be available to possibly extend the shelter if that's an option, or to help out with the discharge planning.
This is a tricky situation because people's lives don't stop on a date. Like, people are going to rely on this, so that comes in the important work to kind of have a plan moving forward once the funding runs out.
Exactly, yeah. Again, with the discharge planning, hooking people up with services, we're constantly showing apartment viewings for folks, connecting them to services, trying to find them housing if that's what they want, or what other kind of services they're looking for, whether it be mental health, addictions. There's a wraparound service here community-wide right now.
And given the times of financial struggle, mental health and addiction often gets tied in together. However, someone might just fall on hard times. They don't have the money to afford rent.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple as that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially during the pandemic, a lot of people did fall on financial hardship. So again, there's a lot of agencies involved right now to help in these situations, especially for those who sort of hit hard times because of the pandemic.
And people might be thinking, well, we have that transition house opening in the fall. Why not just speed that up? It's not that easy, is it?
No, it's a pretty big renovation project. So what I'm being told right now is they're aiming for early fall for the opening of that. So unfortunately, it wouldn't be livable right now for individuals. So being told that's not an option right now at this point in time.
Are you satisfied with how adjustments have been made at the Pelangio location? I know there were concerns from people that live around here. Are you satisfied with how everything was addressed?
I believe I'm satisfied. I think any concerns we've had from citizens, we've done our best to address and work with them. And I know unfortunately there was there's the odd thing that happens that people have concerns about. But I assure everyone around the neighborhood we're doing our best at sort of helping out to alleviate those situations. Most of the folks around here, they have our number on speed dial, so if need be, if they usually it's not a big situation, or it may be an easy solution. So we're very approachable, and so is the neighborhood right now.
Just over a week until Canada Day, as July 1st is a special day for millions of Canadians. Our country's 153rd birthday will be memorable unfortunately due to COVID, as large gatherings against the law. Conversation about Canada's birthday with Mayor Al MacDonald, but first we receive an update from City Hall concerning local citizens' COVID response.
If you look globally, in the last 24 hours, there's a spike in cases around the world, which means that the pandemic is all around us. Here we're very fortunate in North Bay that we have the second lowest positive cases per capita in Ontario, so our citizens are doing a tremendous job, so is our businesses. We just ask our citizens to just reconfirm to follow the protocols. I know that we're starting to see some people let their guards down, but that really does raise their risk profile. So just encourage everyone to follow all the protocols and stay safe.
Tax deferrals for water bills and general taxes, was that program utilized a lot?
So council back, in the early part of March wanted to assist our citizens because there was a great unknown with the pandemic. So what we did as a council is passed a motion that would defer penalties, interest, or actually waive penalties and interest, and would also, if anybody needed assistance, they could defer their taxes and their water and sewer bills. So it wasn't just related to taxes. We did have a few, not a lot, sign in saying that they needed some assistance, which we're happy to do. And if anybody still needs assistance, please contact our staff. But what we're finding now is the pandemic is moving forward. Everybody seems to have a little bit more information. A lot of those individuals, and there wasn't a lot, have been signing back up to automatic debit. So I think just out of caution, they probably said, listen, let's defer it. And then as they saw as the pandemic was running, that they didn't really need that assistance. So we encourage anybody that really needs assistance, please reach out. And if you don't, we do need the revenue as a city, so we just hope that everybody pays.
A quick update on the shelter from, I know you're not necessarily a part of DSAB, but from your seat as the mayor, with the funding running out, the last night will be July 6th, and the transitional house on Chippewa not to be opened until the fall. So there is a gap in service if more funding doesn't come. What's your view on this as we move into kind of an unknown between middle summer and mid-fall?
Yeah, it's a little concerning, to be honest, Clark. Mary Davis and group have done a tremendous job. I mean, the double rinks, or the Pete Pelangio Arena, was massive, and it did cost a lot of money. We didn't charge any rent, but just the staffing costs were tremendous. And when the funding runs out by July 6th, we'll have to find another solution. We've been working on that for the last couple months. It might be a smaller shelter, and you're right about the transitional beds, although they're different from the low barrier beds. They'll be up and running, as soon as they can. But they're two different aspects of mental health and addictions. But having said that, we're working with the government and our community partners like DSAB to find solutions, and we're not deterred, but there might be a bit of a break, so that our citizens understand this service wasn't even available last summer. This is something that started from the Mayor's Roundtable. But we're going to look for solutions and do what we can to help the most vulnerable in our community, and make sure that for those that want a shelter, that there will be a shelter. But we also have to recognize as a society, as a community, even some of the homeless choose not to go to the shelter. So we just have to recognize that's their right as well.
Now, Canada Day is coming up. It is a Wednesday, July 1st. Certainly exciting times when no pandemic is involved. Everyone gets together at the waterfront and super close in terms of non-physical distancing. But with the pandemic, this is definitely not possible to have a large celebration.
No, it's not. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to miss the people, because I'm down there every Canada Day for the last 10 years as mayor, cutting the cake. And you've been there, Clark. It's probably the world's largest cake almost, or I'm sure it's not the world's largest.
It's pretty big.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
And of course there'd be 200-300 people looking to get a piece of cake. We can't do that in the pandemic, so we're having virtual fireworks. We're having a virtual contest for students, as we do every year. So we're doing everything we can to celebrate Canada Day. So ask everybody, to sing the national anthem on Canada Day, but unfortunately they're going to have to do it, in their yards, or if they're out and about somewhere in the city. Just stop and observe, a special day in our history of our country.
Well, the province continues to push the message, think you have COVID, get tested. Well, over the past 24 hours, 131 people got tested, no new positives. A substantial hole closed one northbound lane of Lakeshore Drive on this Tuesday in front of a popular restaurant as city crews were hard at work to repair a broken water main. We have a photo or two to show you, thanks to longtime Your TV volunteer Red Trousdale for the keen eye and the submission of these photos. A hole, you can see it above that city crew worker's head, close to 10 feet high, was dug to allow access to the leak. Traffic was slowed down as 2 northbound lanes were reduced to 1 to allow for work, and they look to fill in that hole once the repair is done. We have reached break time here on this Tuesday edition of Cogeco News. We catch up with Team 1305 as well as Corey Marks. All that and more right after this.
Throw your hands up if it's the same. Oh, living life like this. Just say what you want to say, walk away.
The bump was 30 seconds or something. You must have had it out somewhere on the timeline. I'm like trying to count it out and it's like 30 seconds left. I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah. Welcome back to Cogeco News. The salutes for First Team 1305 continue to mount. A few short weeks ago, our Greg Estabrook spoke to one of the students behind the UV Cube. It is a simple device that can sterilize many different objects in the battle against COVID-19. This device has garnered some national recognition. Greg Estabrook has more.
A few months ago, we profiled one of the developers of a sterilization device that's being employed at the North Bay Regional Health Center in the fight against COVID-19. These kids getting even more publicity now as the story has been shared in the national media as they were profiled last week in the National Post. Where did it all begin?
Well, the idea originally came when my dad, who's a doctor in the hospital, wanted something to help sterilize the personal protective equipment because at that point we were kind of running low on masks. And so he reached out to 1305 because they do a lot of building, and the first prototypes were made by the Summers family, and they pretty much just experimented with UV light and testing it on bacteria they had grown to see if it could kill it effectively, and then we built it from there.
And Fiona says the national publicity was a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, we'd gotten some other publicity from smaller news places, but like National Post is really big, so we were all super excited for that interview.
And for Fiona's dad, obviously a proud papa, but he's proud of all the young students in 1305 who contributed, some of them not even in high school at that point.
I mean, beyond the actual contribution to helping other people, I think the step one beyond that is the sense that one is doing that, and the sense that, you know, somebody who might have previously perceived themselves as just a junior high school or a high school student can actually make a difference on this kind of level. I think that's what's the most important really for me, is to see them see that in themselves.
And the 1305 kids have shared this technology with other robotics teams across the country, and they're trying to go international.
I believe, yeah, we're talking to teams in Brazil, like other robotics teams, and we're working on seeing if we can help them get carts in Brazil. It's really great for 1305 as a team, and it's also really great for First Robotics because then we're like more well known. And helping out the community is a big part of the first community.
It's also a triumph of teamwork, from the young to the not so young.
Joke that I'm the ideas guy, and I'm long on ideas and short on delivery, right? And so that's the reason why it was important to have a team of the kids with different skill sets, different enthusiasm, adult mentors with different skills and different enthusiasm, right? And so for the various kids and their families, everybody comes to the game with a little bit of a different skill set. You know, I'm no engineer, right? So I can think of where a need is, and I can see where a need is day to day, but I can't design it. It's to see that, you know, it took more than one person to come together, because it reminds you that it's never going to be a go it alone kind of a thing.
From scientific innovation to entertainment innovation, 2020 was promising to be a breakthrough summer of touring for North Bay's Corey Marks. The coronavirus pandemic had other plans. Despite the dozens upon dozens of canceled shows, Marks presses on for the release of his second full-length album, which is the first under his new stage name, Corey Marks.
As an artist, I really love being on the road, and touring's one of my favorite parts of doing what I do. And we were on the hashtag Redneck Tour with Gord Bamford across Canada, and you know, we had 20 plus shows there. We only got 3 shows in before it got canceled, and of course a couple dates with Alice Cooper this summer and the Breakin' Benjamin tour. Those are all across the United States. So just between those 2 acts, there's 40 dates, and so you know, I'm out around 70 dates so far with the cancellations or postpones. So I mean, yeah, it sucks, but you know, I'm not the only one going through it. We're all going through it. So just trying to find the bright side of all this. And for me, it's just working on my craft, trying to be better at what I do. Been doing lots of writing lately, and really just planning out, you know, the way it's looking, just kind of planning out 2021. I think it's going to be a great year, and a lot of big things happening right now. So just taking all the positive out of it, all the positive that I can find out of this right now, and just kind of going day by day.
Did you ever think that you would, I mean, it's been postponed now, unfortunately, but ever be on the same show list as Alice Cooper?
You know what, especially, you know, as a, even though I'm a country rock act, I didn't think those kinds of dates would be coming in this early on in my career. And this early on with the release of Outlaws and Outsiders. But I gotta say, I was quite shocked when I got the call, but yet was really excited, and I hope I get that opportunity once again.
And Marks' new album is entitled Who I Am. It's due out August 7th. Now, speaking of Alice Cooper, school's out for the summer. Our Greg Estabrooks has a Whitfield update and the weather forecast right after this.
Weather is brought to you by Canadore College. Great things happen here.
Welcome back to Weather, everybody. Greg Estabrooks here in front of the old school, Whitfield Secondary School. It's last week ever as the school is closing down officially this week. They're going to have a drive-by graduation ceremony set up in front of the school where students can go by, get their diplomas, and then pose for a picture in front of the Whitfield sign in front of the school. Of course, that's the way it is because of the coronavirus in 2020, and it's also the last year of Whitfield in 2020 as the school is officially shutting its doors. They wanted to have a big send-off in May, inviting all the alumni back, including yours truly, but that was canceled because of the virus. They're hoping to do something in the future. We'll have more on the Whitfield end of time, so to speak, on Wednesday's edition of Cogeco News. Tough time for all the Wildcats out there, including this one. Now let's get to the forecast brought to you by Environment Canada and, of course, Canada College. Overnight on Tuesday down to 14 degrees. Showers ending and then showers returning overnight. Risk of a thunderstorm as well. To Wednesday, the high just 16 degrees. Pretty good chance of showers in the morning and then rain in the afternoon. High of just 16. UV index 3 or moderate. Clouds overnight on Wednesday. Small chance of a shower, low of 12. Small chance of a shower on Thursday with some sun, some cloud, 22. Cloudy overnight Thursday, low of 12. Friday, a mix of sun and cloud, up to 23. Clouds overnight on Friday and a low of 16. Pretty good chance of a shower on Saturday with a high of 24. Cloud overnight Saturday with a low of 15. The normals for this time of the year are 24 and 12. And on Monday, the high was 27, but it felt way warmer than that, and the low was 17. That is it for the weather for this Tuesday. When we come back, Mr. Hypo will have the sportscast for you right after this.
Sports is brought to you by Tag Construction for all your construction needs.
Welcome back to Cogeco News. Just one short week ago, Ontario Hockey League Commissioner David Branch made the commitment via a statement that junior hockey will return this fall. Amid the coronavirus, how the season will be presented remains to be seen. It seems unlikely and unrealistic that in just a couple of months, crowds would be able to gather in the thousands inside OHL facilities across Ontario and in 2 states of Michigan and Pennsylvania. For insight into this season through the lens of the Petes, here is your TV producer, Dan Malta, in Peterborough.
Thanks a lot, Clark, and I'm outside the Peterborough Memorial Centre where there hasn't been any action since mid-March. The last game of the season, the potential last game of the season for the Peterborough Petes, got canceled just moments before 5 o'clock when the Sudbury Wolves were actually headed down the highway, and nothing's happened here since then. And for the season, the Peterborough Petes is the equivalent of having a great hand off the flop in poker, and then before you can see the cards on the table, the power went out in the casino. They didn't get a chance to see what their cards could do. I'm talking about guys like Akil Thomas, Nick Robertson, Hunter Jones. And Hunter Jones, he's on to the AHL at the very least next year. Same deal with Akil Thomas. Nick Robertson, could he be with the Toronto Maple Leafs? Another guy, Declan Chisholm. he signed his entry-level contract with the Winnipeg Jets. So all those premier prospects, the top-end chips that the Peterborough Petes had, will be moving on, and they didn't get to take advantage of it. They didn't get to see that come to fruition, so that's really hard for Peterborough Petes fans. It's hard for Peterborough Petes management. It almost buys them a little bit of time and a little bit of leeway because there is that prospect of what could have been. It'll always be out there. They were good against the Ottawa 67s, the top team in the Eastern Conference and the Eastern Division this season, and the group is really holding on to the fact that they believe they could have beat the 67s in a 7-game playoff series. Again, we will never know what will come to be from that. Looking ahead to next season, we have no idea when the season will start. We did see the announcement from Commissioner David Branch saying that the OHL plans to start in the fall. What that means for the Peterborough Petes? Well, it's a logjam in the overage position. They have 5 guys potentially returning as overagers. You go further, there are some promising prospects. Artem Guriev, a guy who spent most of the season last year with the Lindsay Muskies of the OJHL, back up with the Peterborough Petes. He will have another chance to strive on the back end with the team. Mason McTavish, J.R. Avon, that's really what the future looks like for the Peterborough Petes. And they had a strong draft this year again, but it's going to be a rebuilding situation for the Petes, and it's a shame because the people of Peterborough were really looking forward to a strong run from the team. We really don't know what it's going to look like as we keep on going forward. As I've said, as everybody's said, we don't know when training camps will start. We don't know who will be able to train, what players are going to look like. Expect a struggling season for the Peterborough Petes. It's just really tough that the people here in town didn't get a chance to see it all come to fruition. Now I'll throw it back to you, Clark, in North Bay. Thanks for having me on. Hope all is well.
Thank you, Dan. Certainly good to hear your voice. Hopefully you'll be reporting on live action very soon. Well, before we let you go on this Tuesday, all of us at Your TV in North Bay wish Albert Lemire a happy 97th belated birthday. As you can hear and see, a bagpiper was called in to celebrate the occasion on a hot and sunny day late last week. Lemire was born in Cobalt on June 19, 1923, and worked as a mechanic before moving to the Gateway City, where he resides to this day. Happy birthday, Albert, and here's to many more ahead. We have reached the conclusion of this edition of Cogeco News. Do stay tuned to Your TV. Greg Estabrooks will be back on the desk on Wednesday, and we'll have local news, weather, and sports then.